Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, or whichever time zone that you're in. I am Robert Jackson, and thank you for watching the Station Square podcast. Hope you've got your little cup of coffee, or I don't know, a drink of water or something. Had your nice little hearty breakfast, or if it's the afternoon, lunchtime. Yeah, time zones are a bit finicky, but yeah, thank you for watching, and yeah, today we're going to be talking with a longtime veteran in the Canadian voiceover industry. You've heard him on various different projects from Mario to Care Bears, Sailor Moon, as we were just talking about before recording. Ladies and gentlemen, he's also been on TV, television, numerous. I mean, if I list off his resume, I think I'd be here for like 5 minutes. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome John Stalker on my podcast. Thank you for joining me today, my good sir.
Why, thank you very much. It's really a pleasure to be talking with you. And hello, everybody else who's listening. I hope I keep you relatively entertained for the next short while.
Yeah, of course. So I guess to break the ice a little bit, let's talk about just what you've been up to these days. Because you've been acting, you've been directing, and you've done various different stuff. So what's been keeping you busy and occupied during these weird times that we're living in right now?
Well, COVID certainly has changed the face of the entire voice industry. Um, I built a studio in my own home, as 99% of all voice people did. They had to if they wanted to keep working. And I continue to audition. The audition process is an interesting one these days, insofar as there are so many people who want to be voice actors, and a lot of good ones, and a lot of people who are pretenders but still get a listen to. So, doing a little bit of voice work. Um, I am up currently for two voice directing projects. Sorry, I'd love to share it, but everybody hands you an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement these days. You can't talk about anything. Um, did a small project last year for a company in Montreal. Um, but and to be very honest, uh, getting older is a little bit of a stumbling block, a roadblock in terms of moving forward. That's a young industry. I'm not in any way bitter. I'm not sad. It's just the process. And as you get older, you are not in as great a demand. I've always maintained that as a voice actor, when you're young, you can play old. But when you're old, when you're an older voice actor, you can't play young. You can only play older. So it does restrict the volume of work and the sort of the early end of what, or the in terms of age, that you can be even considered for. Um, Most of the projects, or a couple of the projects, these two that I'm in the works for, it'll involve casting as well. So I put on my casting hat. I direct, and occasionally they will call me into the studio to work on them. So they're all really interesting projects. Um, Otherwise, I'm I'm fully into teaching still. Anybody that goes to my website, johnstalker.ca, CA for Canada, will see that I'm a very busy teacher and demo producer, and it's great. I keep busy in the little ways that I can, and always. I know I'm rambling on here, but when you've been in the business, I've been in the business over 50 years, and it never ceases to excite me, even the small things, and even the fact that I work less now still excites me. I go to cons, I do cons all across North America, Canada, US, been to New Zealand, and they're exciting too. I get to share what I've done with a lot of people, and talk to fans, old and new, um, and rekindle sometimes interest in some of the older animated projects that I've worked on.
Nice. Yeah, that it seems that you've been keeping yourself busy. I mean, I know that everybody else is, doing their best to work with what they've got despite the current circumstances. So
Right.
it's really nice to hear that you've obviously have a lot on your little a lot going on your plate. I mean, which is a good thing. I mean,
Mhm.
it's good to stay productive during these
Mhm.
times.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I live rurally, so COVID wasn't as tough for me and my wife as it was for a lot of people. I could always go out for a walk. I didn't, there was no quarantine for me because I'm in the country, so I can walk. I could walk anywhere and do whatever I wanted as long as I was sort of out of immediate contact with a lot of people during the serious days of the virus. So I get to do other things other than my sort of dedicated uh, work in the acting industry.
Okay. Oh yeah, I know that like this whole pandemic has been very rough for everybody. And because when it first started, a lot of people didn't really know what's going to happen and what the future holds. And the truth is, we can't really determine where we can't really decide we can't really like, pinpoint what exactly is going to happen
Oh,
for like in the long run of things,
no, I mean it's still up in the air from my perspective, and certainly at my age, I've got to, I take care. I'm still a mask wearer. I
Yeah.
will avoid crowded situations. But again, living in the country, I don't have to go to downtown Toronto where there's 8 bajillion people crowded into events and everything else. I can, if I'm in the country, and even if I go to a restaurant out here, I'm pretty good. Sit outside. We all have to be careful. Honestly, we don't know what's around the corner. The virus could rear its ugly head again, and in 2 weeks we could be in trouble. So, we've all got to buckle down, take care. I'm triple vaxxed, and if there are 3 more to go, I'll take those two. Um, I want to be careful. I want to live a lot longer.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess we can get to the questions now. So you mentioned that you've been in show business, you've been performing ever since the 1970s. So yeah, how would you say, like, did you always wanted to be a performer or an actor, or was it like something that came much later in your life? Or like pretty much um when you first got your start in the business, like did you always knew that you had a heart that that this was something that you were destined to do, or like did you have other career aspirations prior to starting performing and whatnot?
No, I always wanted to be an actor. I was the typical stereotypical class clown. And I started actually in the mid to late 60s. I was in my early 20s. I was born in 47. Yeah, the late 60s, even all through school, I was involved in the school show and the musicals, both writing music and acting and blah, 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 that whole thing. I failed my last year of high school twice. Um, I know I roll my eyes now and think, how do you fail your last year of high school twice? But it wasn't hard. I just wasn't interested in school. Acting, I would tell everybody from when I can't remember when I didn't want to be an actor, and I remember being very little when people said to me, "What are you going to be when you grow up?" And I said, "I'm going to be an actor." I didn't know what it would entail at that point. Um, I sort of went the standard route early on in my career of doing some TV shows, being an extra, getting a little bit part, getting a line, suddenly being sort of absorbed into running series, but as a tiny bit player. And it started to grow from there. In my sort of my early years starting in the 70s, I did start to get, in the mid 70s, I started to get busy with voice work. I was doing, so I went beyond, I did a couple of major theater productions, a lot of TV. I wasn't doing much film work at that time, a little wee bit. But I was still, but in the mid 70s, I started to get into voice work. And it was in the mid 70s when I was working with Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, and they were doing a series that none of you will have ever heard of, and I don't even think if you Google it, you'll find it. It was called Dr. Zonk and the Zunkins, and that's where I first met and worked with John Candy. And Johnny and I, after doing Dr. Zonk and the Zunkins, we did a series called Coming Up Rosie. And Coming Up Rosie was with Johnny, Gilda Radner, Dan Aykroyd. I mean, it was a Catherine O'Hara. It was a cast of people who have gone on to enormous stardom. Eugene Levy was one of the guys I worked with back then. Marty Short. It was just a bunch of really wonderful, incredibly funny people who were often working at Second City, doing productions in Toronto, and in the early days of that, a lot of them went on to both Second City Television and to Saturday Night Live. I chose to stay in Canada because I was happy in Canada, and I don't regret it for a minute. I mean, I think about perhaps I could have been one of the Saturday Night Live people, who knows? But I did work with, on Second City, I was the original voice of Second City, doing all the intros and extras and the interstitials. And they were eventually redone when they packaged the whole thing. I think it was a 5-year series or 4-year series, whatever it was. But those were my early years. And it was the early days of my acting career. And then into the 80s, that's when I became pretty much a voiceover guy. I left everything else behind. I started in cartoons with Deke out of LA, Nelvana out of Toronto. Anybody that did animation, I was up for it, and began doing a lot of work, starting with, one of the early ones, of course, was Beastly from Care Bears. Still one of my calling cards is Beastly when I go to cons and when I travel around, because I'm kind of the voice of nostalgia. So, and that's great. It's a great place to be. So there you go. Long way around telling you how I got to sort of where I am today, give or take 40 years.
Wow. So growing up, was your family like supportive of you pursuing this career? Because I know a lot of family were like, oh, you want to do this, or you want to go into this career field? Like, were they like, I'm just wondering because um, I know many who are like, oh yeah, they were supportive, or like, oh, they were kind of skeptical. So I hear like a mixed response of mixed variety of reactions.
You're
So
right.
how is it for you in particular when it comes
Well,
to, yeah.
my mom was kind of non-committal, and my dad said, "Whatever you want to do, I'm behind you." No, with no reservations. It never got to the point where I had to say, um, oh gosh, Dad, I decided to be an actor, and now I have no money. And can you, can you lend me some money? My folks didn't have much anyway, so I wouldn't have been able to do that. But can you lend me money? I didn't have to rely on them. When I got into acting, I was very, very fortunate. Um, I think a large part is because there was a lot less competition back then. Today there's more, but I never had to really go back to my dad and say, "Hey, you said you'd support me," uh, and put my hand out. So, but I always carried that with me, whether he meant it or not. It seemed sincere to me, and so in the back of my mind, I said, "Yeah, if I fail, I'm not going to fail." But should there be a hindrance? Should I be delayed? Let's say, I would still have my folks behind me. But once I was out of the house, I never had to go back. So I never had to challenge either my folks on that issue.
Hmm. That's really cool to know. So, in the 70s, you joined a comedy troupe called the Zoo Factory. And
Yes.
yes, how was it like working with being a part of that troupe and getting to work with such talented actors and people that, you know, you guys did a lot as a group and you know, how would you describe the whole experience of
Well,
doing
the
it?
Zoo Factory was great. It sort of started with a little improv, and we would work up routines. And um, if I recall correctly, Zoo Factory was part of a show. I don't know if many of you know of him, but he did have a couple of big hits. His name was Keith Hampshire. Daytime, Nighttime, Big Time Operator. Those were songs that did go North America wide, and it was on his show that Zoo Factory was working, and it was simply an element of that. It was kind of a variety show. You don't see variety shows anymore; they're very, very old school. But it was good. I'm trying to remember. I worked with Jerry Craden, Dan Hennessy, I think Bruce Gordon, and I can't remember who else. Harriet, somebody or other. Can't remember her last name. Jerry Craden and I are still friends. Um, which is really nice. Dan Hennessy has fallen on some hard times, but and we don't keep in contact, but I still look him up occasionally, and I try to find out how he's doing. Bruce Gordon, I haven't seen in a few years. Harriet Cohen, that's what it was. Harriet, I don't know what she's doing, if she's doing. That was kind of the last time I worked with her. I think those are the five people. You've got it in front of you. Actually, people who interview me or fans know my history better than I do, right? It's funny, but you would probably know who they are. I think I got them all though. Um, yeah, it was always great. I mean, that whole group of people were so funny back then. It was, and it was a really, the wonderful thing was really, really tight knit. And the other thing I loved about it, even beyond the on camera work, the voice work, there was no resentment back then. We all had our chance to work, and because it was a small kind of intimate group, and there just weren't a lot of people in the pardon me, in the game, and we didn't really care. We'd all go in, we'd see each other for auditions. Hey, did you get that thing for the? Yeah, I got that. Did you get anything? No, I didn't. I'll get you. You'll get it next time. There was a fraternity, so call it, kind of a brotherhood slash sisterhood, although I'm not a woman, but I'll call it that anyway. But we were all kind of in it together. It's a very relaxing time. Now, when I audition, or I just find the competitive edge is so high. It takes some of the artistic luster off what we're doing. Yes, it's a job. Yeah, if you want to be an actor, you can't just want to be an actor. You got to want to make money. You simply have to. We all have to live. Eating is great. I love eating. I love having a dry place to live, and right, and having a few bucks in my pocket. But back then, nobody worried, and again, there was no. Though we were competitive, it wasn't a fierce competition, and it was a very different world, very, very lovely one. I don't want to say, well, back in the day we did this and we did that and we don't do that anymore. I don't want to sound like that guy, but the sort of the face, the general sense of the industry has changed a lot since then.
Yeah, so that's how you would describe how the industry, like everything back then, like because you've been at this for almost 50 plus years now. So yeah, I was also gonna ask, how would you say that everything has changed from, from the 70s up to now? But I think you kind of answered that question for me.
Yeah. I'll say it again if you want, but it'll be the same.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and speaking of which, you and Dan appeared as Thompson and Thompson on the Adventures
Thompson
of
and
Tintin.
Thompson.
Yeah.
Thompson and Thompson, yes. Matter of fact, uh, it's funny because Tintin, that's the original animated version of Tintin. Um, yeah, that was one of the things that we worked with. Dan and I worked together just a ton. He was a voice director at the times before I went into voice directing. And man, oh man. And again, as I mentioned, he was in Coming Up Rosie, and that's where we first met on that show. And then we did a ton of animation together. Very, very talented guy. Thompson, the Tintin cartoon, though not as popular in North America, I don't know if you've seen it or not, or whether any of your listeners or viewers have seen it, but it is a lot of fun, and it's old 2D animation, and it's very popular. When I went to New Zealand, they weren't interested in Beastly from Care Bears. They weren't particularly interested in Toad from Super Mario Brothers Super Show, but they were big fans of Tintin. That's where they all wanted to meet the guy who played Thompson. I used to say with a P. Dan would say, "Oh, I'm Thompson, son's P." Sons is a French word for without. "Oh, I'm Thompson, son's P." And I would say, "And I am Thompson avec P, with P." So because they were spelled Thompson and Thompson. So anyway, that and Ultron were the two big things in New Zealand, as I recall. But yeah, working with Dan was great. I love working with a lot of the old guys, but I better get it in quick because there aren't many left.
Yeah. So we can also talk about Beasley now because that's the role that pretty much is your calling card, like you mentioned
Yeah,
earlier. So
yeah.
yeah, and how is the audition process like when it comes to this particular role? And how is it like working on that show and just the fact that a lot of people still seem to remember this little guy all these years after the original Care Bears family ended. So, yeah, how would you describe the impact of, I guess, Care Bears and Beasley in general? Like, first, you
Well,
could talk about the audition process, how's it like working on the show, and then just I guess, how it just left an impact with, I guess, it kind of caught on. It kind of is still a memorable character even to
mhm,
this very day.
very
So,
much
yeah.
so. Yeah. Well, the audition was interesting because back in those days, and that was for Nelvana, the voice director was doing Care Bears. He called me in and he said, "We're doing a new show." I mean, I auditioned, but I didn't really audition. He called me in and said, "We know you can do something for this thing." I said, "Well, thanks, Rob. That's really great." And he showed me this character. I think it was 89, maybe 89, somewhere in there, 88. And he showed me the drawing of Beastly. I was like, "Whoa, man, what do we do?" And I said, "What do you want?" He said, "What have you got?" And we sat there and I went through voices and should I try this? Do I try that? And then finally I came up with that. And he said, "Oh my God, that's it. That's it. Where did that come from?" And I said, "Well," and you wouldn't remember, and most of your show participants wouldn't remember. There was an old time comedian who had a variety show on TV. His name was Jackie Gleason, and he had one line in every show that he would do, "And away we go." And he had that little bit of a nasal thing in it. So I thought maybe I could take that, make it my own, because in animation we kind of steal anyway. You steal from another
Oh yeah.
character. Yeah, the very fact that we have different vocal structures, it sounds different. I wasn't impersonating, I was taking and extrapolating, enlarging, if you will. So I came up with that. And he said, "Oh my God, that's it. That's fabulous." He actually used another word in front of fabulous that I won't use on your show. And I said, "Well, let's do this." And that was the start of Beastly. And I mean, right from the get-go, when the show came out, he and No Heart became the focus of the show. Like these little Care Bears, these little goody Care Bears running around were like playing second fiddle to No Heart and Beastly. And then Shrieky came in as No Heart's niece, and that element grew strong. And I think, you know what, I really think that today, and it's still, again, when I go to cons, yes, I get called in because I was the voice director of Sailor Moon and the voice of Grandpa Hino, but I get as much notoriety, if you will, from being Beastly, because it's like it's in, after, whatever, 40 odd years, Beastly is now almost, it's sort of into its third generation, because people who are kids then have gotten their kids, and those kids have kids. And it's one of those shows that sort of transcends time. It's not edgy. It doesn't try to make a point. It's the triumph of generally good over evil. And even No Heart wasn't really evil. He was a soft evil. Beastly was even softer, that, and Beastly played that nebulous character where, like, he didn't want to do anything. "I don't want to hurt you guys." Right? He was this nice guy, but Beastly had to make a living. He had family, probably kids, wife, so he had to go home and bring a paycheck. No Heart paid. I guess that covered the mortgage. He's kind of harmless, and he's and again, the show not being in any way political or pointed. That's I would consider that its number one reason for its longevity. You can watch it today, and it's not, other than the fact that it's a little slower, because older animation was a tiny bit slower. But other than that, it's not, nobody looks at it and rolls their eyes today. It's looked at as a historical piece of animation, historical series, and it still holds up well in terms of what it said. It's like Arthur. You can watch Arthur, and it doesn't get old, because the lessons, the moral in it, the moral story, and the sentiments still live on in our lives. There are a lot of stuff that's very topical, and once you're topical, you lose a lot of your audience when it's rerun, because it's 10 years later or 20 years later, and the references don't make sense. Shows like Care Bears never referenced anything topical, so they can live on. And that's why when I do cons, Beastly still my number one, the number one thing that I autograph. I sell Beastly T-shirts that sell really well, and people love them. I wear one. It's just got Beastly's head on it. It's great. And I give kids stickers and the little cards. That's freebies that I give out. But when I say, what kind of freebie do you want? They'll say, even these new kids, 5 years old, and they're third generation. Okay, we want Beastly. That's okay. Here you go. Right. So,
Yeah.
I'm getting my wife, I think, is bringing me a tea. Thank you, wife.
You're welcome. It's hot.
Yeah, I know. Thank you. Should be. See.
Love tea. But yeah. Yeah. It does. You did bring up like an interesting little conversation there. Like when you brought up like you can pretty much take like something like you could do like I know a lot of people say that like yeah, you should probably focus on, coming up with your bringing your like authentic self, like authenticity, like bringing yourself into a role. I do believe that you could do like it doesn't have to be good or anything, but like doing a bad impersonation of like a popular celebrity, or even like a celebrity that is really obscure and not a lot of people really know about. You could just take that and then tweak it, and you can use it to make an original character. Yeah, there's like a lot of like say let's see. I know I was doing like a lot of bad impersonations for like an audition recently. I can't really say what it is, but like it's so much fun to just do like
It is.
um yeah, when you just do like for example, like you could just do a terrible Pat Buttram, Mr. Haney from Green Acres. Now, I'm telling you that I got these little spriggets here, my
Right.
good sir. And you could
Yeah.
just take that for you could kind of tweak it, make it a little more nasally, and then all of a
Right.
sudden, boom, you could just kind of have an
Correct.
original character and then just make him really high and energetic like this. So it's just
Yeah.
a terrible
Well,
example,
that's
but you
no,
could
but
just take, yeah.
you're right, because when I teach, if I'm doing like I do commercial teaching, I do animation teaching. When I do animation teaching, I tell all of my students, listen to cartoons and find and steal. I also say, you know what? Go into a restaurant or go into a bar, have a beer at the and listen to people talking. I've picked up some great voices sitting in a park, and you hear somebody on the next, on the bench next to you. Right? Yeah, he's talking like this. Yeah. So yeah, yeah, I saw her. Yeah, I saw Sheila yesterday. Right. Well, what's she doing? Yeah, and you think, what a great little voice. And sure enough, file it away. And sure enough, somewhere down the road, you'll get an opportunity to use that. I mean, you may not make him sound like a drunkard who's ready to fall over, but you can make him an old crusty guy, or an old, you old crusty woman, go away from me, you little fart. You know, you can
Yeah.
do all that stuff, right? Just by listening to other people. And so much now of animation is there aren't a lot of like really crazy voices in most animation. They're all sort of human based. And so you need to find a character definition in emotion and attitude. So much of that will drive it. And even when I teach kids, I'll say, what's your emotion here? Are you angry? Are you happy? Are you just concerned? Are you anxious? What's going on in your head with this character? And they'll say, well, I'm so and so. It's like, okay, let me hear that. Right. And then inject it with a little bit of a characterization, and suddenly, boom, you've got a character. You've got you got a brand new character. It's never totally brand new. Again, it's new to you, but it's not new. There'll always be somebody out there who does something similar. And that's okay, right? But as long as you're creating it, the one thing you don't want to do is, it's funny because I get people who say, oh, I can do impersonations. That's really, what do you do? So they would say, well, I can do Homer Simpson. I said, great. See you in court when you get hit with the lawsuit, right? Because you can't do Homer Simpson. I don't care how well you do it. You can't do it. But you can take that attitude, that sort of stupid attitude that always turns out right, but use that and create something comparable, tweak the voice, you'll have something new. Add another element. Add an element of right. He's skinny. He's gonna have a different voice maybe than Homer, who's fat. And all of those things, those help to build, create a character voice. And face it, we have a tough, voice actors have a tough job because there's not, you don't see a visual. It's like you're not on camera where you can do all these facial things and move your arms and express yourself. You got to do it all with your voice, right? So it's an acting job. It's a tough acting job. That's why the same people work over and over and over again. Because, when you can be trusted to with a character and to do 26 episodes or 52 or 65, whatever it is in the pool, those people hiring you and paying you a lot of money need to trust you.
Yeah. And as long as you're having fun in an audition, like I focus on okay, so how can I have fun with this role? What is
Right.
something that I could do to bring this character to life?
Right.
And a lot of people focus on oh, I gotta book this job. I gotta book this game. No. As long the thing that I've learned that you need to focus on more, it's I mean, it's really important to because it's acting. You're bringing a character to life, and it's not about like how many voices or how many impressions you can do. As long as you know how to have fun and bring that same amount of joy and the spirit into the character,
Mhm.
and because if people can tell, like if a casting director, if a producer, a network or somebody knows that you're having fun, when they hear that you have a smile on your face, then it's definitely going to leave. I mean, and I know there's the saying that like, oh, I keep getting rejected. It's more about who is the. You just don't really know because as soon as you send it out, it's like totally out of your control. And maybe they have somebody has that certain vocal quality they have that might be perfect to
Mhm.
one director, but then somebody did something else, and they probably had different. Um,
Mhm.
like they probably brought had a different interpretation or an acting like making choices in an audition. That's something that I've come to learn because after watching a lot of videos that a great voice actor Bob Bergen does on his Instagram account, where he's really big on like if you physically portray the character, then the voice is going to follow, and making strong, believable choices in an audition. That's I mean, it doesn't
Mhm.
matter if you book it or not, as long as you definitely know what you're doing, you're making a choice, and you stick with it, you roll with it, and you're having fun, then
Mhm.
that's gonna definitely leave a good impression on, whoever is casting the project.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a
It's a
firm
sense of trust.
believer
Yeah.
in going in. And this is actually, it's one of the preliminary things that when I get into teaching, be it again commercial work or animation, because they both have, they're very different disciplines. Commercial is very regimented, very tight. It's formulaic. Animation is free form, a lot more. But the attitude is the same in both. You talk about smiling. First of all, when you're reading a commercial, you've always got to smile because you are, in every commercial, doing somebody a favor. They're either buying the right lottery ticket, eating the right sandwich, drinking the right beer, taking the right cruise, uh, buying the right lumber at the right place. You've got that advice. You always have to smile. But the other important things and Wayne Dyer says this. I don't know if you know of Wayne Dyer. He's a motivational speaker. He passed a few years ago, but he was wonderful. And he said, if you wake up in the morning and you're feeling crappy, just go to the mirror and keep doing this. Smile at yourself, right? Just smile. Okay. And he said, and then after, at a certain point, I have to turn this off. No.
Phone calls.
Right. Okay. It's my daughter. Um, she'll be okay. She'll still love me. Well, whatever. And but smiling, if you make yourself feel good, your attitude is what carries you through the disappointments. and the successes. It's easy to smile when you get the gig. It's tough to smile when you don't. But you have to keep yourself up. I sometimes get a little anxious and I get aggravated and I get a little PO. It's like, gee, I've auditioned for this guy 25 times. Is he ever going to hire me? I think we go through that. You have to take a step back when you get that way, because the anxiety is not going to further your work or your career. So you got to take a step back and say, it's all good. It's the game I'm in. It is a game of, it's a competitive industry. I simply have to, I'm either in or I'm out. If I'm in, this is part of the game. If I'm out, see you later, bye. It's been fun. But if you are in the game, you have to just accept that that's the way it is. The smiling and the going in, leaving your all your bag of miseries, sorrows, and woes at the door, because nobody in there wants to hear them, no matter what. You know, I always say everybody has a car accident, everybody's dog dies, everybody's mother is sick, everybody, gets to, has to get a filling. We all go through stuff, and we all have stuff. It's the people who can take that. I'm not saying throw them away, because they're very much a part of our lives, and as humans we're going to react to them, but you got to leave that stuff outside the door when you walk in. How you doing? I'm great, thanks. How are you? Well, when somebody comes in and I'm casting, or if I'm auditioning for somebody and I'm smiling and they're smiling, you will have already checked a box on that in what you have to do. Even before you've started to work, you've checked the box. You're smiling, which shows you're feeling good. If you're an actor, you can smile and still feel crappy. So that's what you do. You're polite, check, all of those things. It's like, are you on time or are you late? On time, check. Late, not so much, right? All of those things. And all of those positive things go into helping you become not only a better person, but ultimately, I think, a better performer, because you are engaged. So that's a long way around to saying I agree with you. You got to smile. You got to feel good. You're going to get rejected no matter how good you are, more times than you will not be rejected. Because that's the way it is. Because there's thousands of voice actors out there. And they all want the same thing we want. I want the gig.
Yeah, pretty solid advice. Yeah, very good stuff there. So when it comes to the business of voiceover, because a lot of people, I know that myself included, we're all navigating away on social media when it comes to networking and socializing with other, like with clients, with studios and whatnot. So for demo, I mean, this is pretty much what you're doing right now. Like you do demo productions and you teach students, and yeah. So I will say, when it comes to presenting your demo, website, resume, all of that stuff. So do you have like what's your best piece of advice when it comes to navigating the business of voiceover, when it comes to this industry and using social media as a way of getting connected to clients and just with not just with other VAs, but for like people that are currently in the business? How would you say that it's a great way to, um, get your name out there and just putting yourself out there
Oh,
essentially?
well,
What's
it's
your best piece of
that's two different
advice?
things to me. Two different things to me. One, the social media. I'm, being of the age I am, I'm not quite as connected to social media.
Okay.
And in some ways, it doesn't affect me quite the same way. If somebody, I mean, if somebody wants to research me, well, they'll find me on Facebook, but I keep my Facebook really clean and really sparse. My daughter runs my Instagram account, because I could do it, but I'd get frustrated pretty much. So I know it's a good way of getting out there now, but not in terms of I don't really see anybody looking at LinkedIn and saying, oh, I'm going to cast and I'm going to call every voice. I'm looking for this particular person, whatever. I'm going to call everybody on LinkedIn. Well, You're not going to do that. First of all, you're going to contact people locally. You're probably not going to even contact them directly. As a casting agent, I will call the agents that I know and trust and say, send me 10 people. Then I don't have to worry. I said, send, here are the requirements, the vocal requirements. Send me 10. You send me 10. You send me 10. And they'll supply them. I don't do that. So, and I don't have an agent because I don't personally have an agent. And no other actor personally has an agent because they've got great, great social great social platforms that all that media doesn't, I don't think, enhance you as a performer itself. It's your agent that pushes you. Your talent gets you to where you want to go. And in terms of just advice to being a performer, never stop learning. Every day, every day is good. You've got to accept every day for good and bad. Life's half good and half bad, no matter what you do. Right? It's half good and half great and half crappy. It just is, right? And that's okay. And you live with that, and you deal with the crappy, and you revel in the good. But remember that without the negative, there is no positive, because it's a matter of perspective. How do we know this is good because that's bad, and they're in the same room together? So feel good about yourself. Work every day on your craft if you want to physically improve it. I know that when I teach when my commercial teaching, I tell people, read everything, read out loud. When you get on the bus or whatever, the subway or whatever it is, there's all those cards that are up there. Read them. They read like commercial copy. So get a chance to practice, get together with other people and workshop. Have fun. Life's too short not to have fun with whatever you do. If you're struggling and you're sad, you have to do something else. You really do. We all, we're all okay. We all deserve a really great life. And, if you're a decent human being, I know that sounds really corny, and maybe that's age sort of dictating the way I like to look at it. But, if you love something, work at it. And that, if you want to be a veterinarian, man, if you don't like cats and dogs, don't be a veterinarian. If you don't like acting, don't be an actor. Don't force yourself into something that makes you uncomfortable, or you probably won't even be good at it if you don't love it. I mean, all those big name stars, that they love it, man. Why does Meryl Streep still look at scripts and want to work? She need the money? I don't think so. But she's good. Damn, she's good, and she loves the game. And she can do so many things. I'm sure she's exhilarated. I know I'm still, for me, and I know I'm talking personally, I go to do a gig, man, I'm the happiest guy. I live in the country. I take the train in, or drive into Toronto or wherever, and I walk into that studio. It's like, wherever it is, I'm home. I love it. And I'm blessed. I'm very fortunate. But
Yeah.
I like everybody to feel that way. You got to feel excited about your craft. You have to find new things. Remember, if you're reading a script, sometimes you're going to read the same line 35 times. Director's going to say, no, I'm really not happy. Try it with a B, try it with a hand, try it with a E, right? So you do it, and it's like, oh my God, right? I want to let me out of here, right? Where's the nearest bar? But no, you work together, and you get a product that's really great, and it's like, thank you, man. You worked my ass off. You worked my ass off, and we got something really, really interesting. Thank you. You say, hey, man, thank you for doing the thing. You worked hard. Yeah. Okay. Bye. Right.
Yeah. So since I'm here in America, I've gotten acquainted with like a lot of the Canadian voiceover people, because I know that there's certainly a great amount of people who work up in Canada, and actually getting to speak with a few who do work professionally in the up in that industry. I gotta ask, so who would you say, like, are there like any people that you have in your life, like whether it be like personally, like real life, it could, you could say your family, or it could just be you know, your colleagues that you've worked alongside with. Who would you say are your biggest inspirations or like your biggest influences when it comes to
Mm.
this whole crazy career? Like, who would you say are your biggest influences or I guess inspirations in your life?
I know I don't mean to sound overly, I don't mean to sound selfish, but I don't have anybody in the commercial world. There were a couple of guys. His name was Henry Raymer. You'd not know him, but I loved the way he worked, and I emulated some of the things he did. Um, and I would listen to some of the voiceover people and work. In terms of animation, I wasn't like I admired Mel Blanc, say, for doing the Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Elmer Fudd, all of those characters. I mean, he was a master of that, and he was an innovator and all of those things. But he was never somebody I looked at and went, "Oh my God, I'd want to be just like him." I never did. When I started to do animation, and it was in its inkling, its early stages in Toronto. I mean, I think most people know that LA and Toronto are neck and neck in terms of production now. There's like, I don't
Yeah.
know, 25 25 series being done in Toronto. I mean, it's crazy. LA gets the marquee names in the big movies because you've got the big actors down there. In Canada, we have to either import, the people from the States, or, or we have some name people now too, of course. But I never, I didn't really model myself after anyone. I just knew that I loved the whole thing. I didn't even know what voice acting was. All I knew was I could do voices. I mean, it was an agent that said, you got a good, like, speaking voice. Would you like to try doing commercial work? What? Sure. Okay. Right. And I just entered the animation industry because it fascinated me. And because I don't know, I didn't need, I guess, I didn't need the sort of acclaim that a physical self would need. I didn't need to be recognized on the street. I kind of liked being the voice of. I was happy. Um, but to model myself, boy, I'd love to say that there were some people, but unfortunately, there aren't. You're wearing a Mario t-shirt, I just realized.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
I like to look snazzy, I guess, for interviews like this.
Yeah, well, you picked the right one.
Yeah. And I think I have like some Mario plushes right behind me, as a matter of
Yeah.
fact.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. I don't know if you can see it very well, but yeah. Been a fan for like, I guess I want to say since I was like 5 or 6 or so. But yeah, I'm so
Wow.
sorry. Don't, yeah, I'm sorry to distract you with my
Oh, no, you
Mario
didn't.
shirt.
No,
Just
no, no.
continue.
No, it's just my ego. That's all. Don't worry about it. So yeah, I don't mean to sort of dead end your question, but I had no real heroes in the business. I just I l- I don't know. I loved working with other people in the studio. I found that environment was more inviting than I loved listening to other people's voices and working with them, so I wasn't colliding. And we were, I mean, there were actors that I liked, but it wasn't that they were good voice actors that made me go, "Oh man, I want to be just like you." I enjoyed working with them because they knew their craft. Do you know what I mean? Very, very different. Like the guy who played No Heart, Chris Wiggins, it died a few years ago. Chris was just a wonderful guy. um, and going into the studio with him and joking around, and man, the camaraderie again back then was magnificent. Even again, the audition sessions, if I didn't get the gig, it was still worth sitting in the audition room with a bunch of my cronies and laughing and having a great time. Now everybody's so serious. You walk in and say, what are you going to do with this part, man? What do you know? Geez, I hope you get a sore throat just before you go in. It's like,
Boy.
yeah. But sorry to not be able to do that, to give you that. And I'm not patting myself in the back and saying it came out of nowhere, but it kind of did. So
Yeah.
because I did say it's out of nowhere. So
Yeah. And you've also voiced the Cheshire Cat in the Care Bears Adventure in Wonderland,
yes,
and also Soul and Look Who's Talking Now. So, real
yeah.
quick, how's it like, getting to work on those projects as well? Just really
Well,
quick.
Cheshire Cat was, I think he talked like that. He was like if I can recall correctly, hey, uh, yeah, that was fun. It's, I mean, again, uh, it's just a voice. It was just fun. They said that we want somebody real cool. You know, I said, you want like the jazz pianist? And they said, yeah. So that's why I did that, right? And Look Who's Talking Now was great. I mean, I can't believe it's like 30 years ago that I did Look Who's Talking Now, but it was a nice little part. They flew me out to Vancouver, and I was out there for like 4 or 5 days. And while I was there, I did, I think, every animated show that they had going on that they were recording. And I had my agent contacted them, of course, by then at that time it was phone call. So my agent contacted all the people out in Vancouver. You're doing so and so. John Stalker is going to be in town. So I get, okay, well, we'll use him for this. Okay, we'll use him for that. So every day off I had from the Look Who's Talking set, I got to do some voice work, which was really, really great. And working, I didn't really work with a lot of them. I mean, I shared a hair and makeup room with John Travolta, which was nice. He was a nice guy. Uh, I guess Kirstie Alley was the gal. I didn't really interact with her at all. But it's always nice to have those little movie roles are fun. I just finished a little movie. I guess 6 months ago in Toronto. So I still do some on-camera stuff too. It's fun. I love the game. It's a great game. So I'll do whatever. I mean, you kind of sort of in a way have to do it. I mean, actors are, you have to be a little bit of a whore, I think, too, because you got to do all kinds of stuff just to keep your hand in the industry.
Yeah. So since I was since I'm now wearing the Mario t-shirt, yeah, we could just talk about your other well-known role, Toad from I mean, you're in all three of the Super Mario Brothers animated series, playing a lot of different characters. So
Yes.
were you familiar with the Mario franchise before working on this? And or like was it something that it was just another like audition, and then you walked in, did your part, and then years later people still remember these shows like
Yeah.
fondly, like having this longevity, like most of the work that you've done, like you've talked about Care Bears and then with Mario. Did you really expect like any of these to like really, I guess, blow up? um you know Especially with Mario, because Mario is like such a huge franchise.
Right.
Like it's a gaming icon. It's such an iconic franchise. So yeah. Were you familiar with the series before walking in, and when you were playing Toad, and even in the other character, like working on the other series? And yeah, did you like really expect it to really like take off? Like,
Okay.
with
No,
stuff like that?
and answer the first part of that. Um, I was not familiar with it. I had no idea what it was. To me, this was all brand new, right? They had just come out with Super Mario. As far as I knew at that point, I didn't know if it had been comic books before that or what, or if the comic books came after. I don't know what came first. Um, but uh I mean, it was just again, it was that was a struggle for a voice. We wanted to know it. I worked with some really good people, a really great studio. Remember, it was called Master's Workshop. And I remember the engineer's name was Orist. Forrest. Anyway, God, I haven't thought of him in a long time. He's a nice guy. But I worked with Danny Wells, who was Luigi. Danny Wells died about 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Harvey Atkin was King Koopa. Harvey died a few years ago. Yeah. And did not work with the on-camera. Well, actually, Danny Wells played the on-camera Luigi and also the voice Luigi. He was the only one who did both sides of that show. So Lou Albano's been dead for, I think, for 20 years. Captain Lou, who was Mario. And in terms of the second part of your question, God, you got me going back here to think about people. So I'm sorry to diverge from your line of questioning, but in terms of knowing what it was going to be, absolutely not. I don't think we did in any one. I mean, that's an interesting question that I get asked more about Sailor Moon, because of all the projects I've been involved in, Sailor Moon is absolutely the most massive. It's worldwide.
Uh-huh.
And, you know,
Yeah.
and everybody says, did you know? And I said, no, nobody. It was, what is this? It's in Japanese. What are we doing here? Okay, you've got to do this, you got to do that. And of course, when I became director, I was doing voices on it, and I was hired in the middle of a session to replace a voice director, and it was like, what am I, sorry, right? We had no idea that it was going to be this enormous thing that has spawned, like, not just the remake, but man, oh man, go to cons and it's like I do a panel, and I'm telling you, the room is full of people wanting to know about early days of Sailor Moon. And most of them think that we went in and knew we had this incredible thing that we were working on. No. And it was so scattered, actually. When we went in, people think, oh, you went in and you did a show. We didn't. We would go in and do, say I had one of the Sailor Scouts in, right? Say I had Karen Bernstein in doing, I think she was Sailor Mercury, right? So she would come in and we would do like parts of 6 episodes. Okay, we got Karen. Let's do this. Let's do that part. Do all of her lines in 6 episodes. So nobody knew what even the stories were. It was all over the place, jumbled up, and oh my God, it was so we never knew the plots to half of them. I didn't even get scripts till sometimes the day before. Remember that there was no email. We'd wait until they got delivered, right? Mail delivered or courier delivered, right? So we just thought we thought Sailor Moon was going to be a jumbled mess, most of us. But surprise, surprise. And look what it is. Look what it is today.
Yeah, especially Sailor Moon, like especially,
Yeah.
that franchise. So
Mhm.
I guess that was how you started working on it. And then I guess this kind of segues into how you actually transitioned into becoming a voice director. It was through Sailor Moon. So how would you say when you're directing other actors, what do you find to be more fulfilling? Do you find yourself having more fun when you're performing behind the microphone and just when you're an actor, or getting the opportunity to direct other actors for the various projects that you've done over the years? Like, if I go on and just list the work that you've done as a voice director, I'd be here for like another 30 minutes or so. So, yeah, what do you find is more fulfilling to you, performing or directing?
Honestly, I love them both. I really do. Um, but I'm so thankful that I was a voice actor for so long before I became a voice director, because I know I understand how actors think and work and feel and react and all of those things. So I would jump at anything right now, in either of those two disciplines. And I get calls for both, and I'm really happy that it hasn't been just one or just the other. They're, they both have their own sense of fulfillment. When I work on a character, I know how I would deal with the character, how I would work with the character, and how I would work with the voice director if there were any issues in it. And as a voice director, I respect what an actor now, because I'm an actor, I respect what they bring to the project. And I think, that's an interesting, I can't tell you how many times I've said, that's an interesting way the way you read that line. I wouldn't have read it that way, but you know what? That's terrific. I love that. Thank you. That's great. And so I get to grow too. I get to grow and hear new wrinkles in dialogue. And I just find it fascinating. I love the process. Certainly, voice directing, there's a lot more time and a lot more effort. If I go in to do a voice gig, I'm going for an hour and a half, and I do the entire script because we don't work ensemble. Most people don't. Certainly in series work, you don't work all together. You go in and do your lines, and then you go out. It's a lot more cost efficient that way. They don't book the whole studio for an entire day for 10 people, but every performer gets to come in, does his hour, paid, and the next one does an hour and a half, paid, next one does 2 hours, paid. And so, but when I go in for basically a short period of time to do voice work. When I'm directing, I'm there for the day. And if it's sometimes I'll go an hour overtime, and that's just the way it is. Sometimes, I'll finish 10 minutes early, but very rarely. I usually right to the limit. So I'm putting in a very full day, and my attention, I don't have time to sleep or not think. You got to be on for the whole time. And aside from that, there are several days I'm really crazy efficient. My script is, if you looked at it, it looks like a Christmas tree because it's got every character is highlighted in a different color. Everything that character does, says, where they are, how they're supposed to deliver the line, they're all marked and notated with little squiggles and checks and all kinds of stuff, and the highlighting. And I'll work on a script for if I have it for a week, I'll work on it for a week. And if I take the train into the city, I will be working. It'll be my last shot at working on that script one more time before I go in. So I think that's the way you're supposed to do it. You're going to do something, you do whatever it is, you do it right. It's back to what I talked about before. I love it. I'm into it. And I want to be the best. And
Yeah.
maybe sometimes I am, and sometimes I'm not. But that's what I aim for every single time. And again, voice work is tough. Directing is probably tougher. You have to know how everybody is delivering their line, each line. When you're a voice performer, it's just your lines you really have to worry about.
Right on, right on. So, for conventions, when you first started going to conventions and like when they've invited you to cons, yeah, do you enjoy, do you love the atmosphere of going to the cons and meeting your fans? Because you've talked about it earlier. Especially when you got invited for Sailor Moon for Anime Expo, as we were talking about it before recording. That was 2014 when you were invited to Los Angeles and meeting and seeing the original Canadian cast who flew down to LA from Canada. So yeah, how would you describe the whole convention experience of being invited as a guest and meeting the fans and seeing I'm just hanging out with the other actors and just how do you enjoy the whole entire I guess the con scene or life or atmosphere?
Well, I love it because everybody is like way up there. I mean, the energy level is fabulous. Everybody's there for a kind of a single purpose. They may have different people they want to see, but they're all there because they're anime/animation fans or gaming or whatever. But they're also intense that I love the fact that they want to share. Oh my God. I mean, the whole sharing thing, hey, John, da, 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 da. And it's not that I'm special. We're all special in their own way. But I love when people come and ask me about different things. And I'll say, I don't even remember doing that. Tell me. And they'll say, oh, you did this, da, 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 da. And I see their excitement and I get caught up in it. So it's my way of kind of reliving a lot of the joys that I went through when I was recording. I love giving people something to take home with them, and I'll tell you that, I mean, the way I run, yeah, I sell my autographed prints, but if somebody's a fan, and I've done this as often as not, somebody's a fan and they don't have money, I'm still going to sign something and they're going to take it home. I don't care if I don't get any money. I love to make some money, but it's not the be all and end all for me. I just know that these people come out because they want to see me and they want to see the others, and they should go home with something they wanted to come, that they were coming for. And that's my little way of saying, hey, thank you very much for coming out. You enliven me when you come out, and I'm glad that I've filled that little hole or that little crevice or that little spot in your life with something. And I'm going to put this on my wall. So I'm really, I'm really, really happy that this does that for you, because it doesn't take much for me to go, right? And these people walk away as happy as can be, man. It's like, come on, it's great. It's wonderful. And I get to go to new places too. I mean, when I went to New Zealand, oh my God, I went to Hobbiton. Come on. That was part of the tour out of what city was I in? Can't remember where I was, but I think I'm going back too. They've said we want you back, so I'm going to go to New Zealand again. But going to Hobbiton and seeing the Lord of the Rings sets and all that stuff. Wow, that was really, really neat. Or if I go to a town, any town, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and get to see a little bit of it. And Vancouver is a beautiful city. LA was great. I got to, to go to Mann's Chinese Theater and a lot of places that are iconic. So how can you not like that? The only crappy thing is, travel and jet lag, right? I got they pamper me, get a nice hotel. Come on, take my wife with me if I can. Taking my daughter with me a couple of times too. It's great. What's not to like?
Yeah. So out of curiosity, because for your daughter, because I actually did not know, like upon further research, that she is also an actress. So it's kind of something that you've passed the torch alongside down to her to continue the family legacy, I suppose.
Well, yeah, she does some work. She does a few things. It's my older son, by a previous encounter from 40 years ago, it was an actor as well. And there's only one of my kids that wasn't an actor for a while, but my daughter Bailey, yeah, she still auditions. We have the same agent, which is really neat. And she still works, and she's done, Bakugan and a whole bunch of stuff. Right. And she's done some movies and Camp Rock, and she's done some stuff. She's a vegan chef too, and man, she cooks a mean meal out of stuff that you're gonna really cook that and make that taste good. Yes, she does. So,
Mhm.
but the acting, it's great. I don't know if I've handed her. I don't like to say I handed her the torch. She had her own torch.
Yeah. So, I know that it's kind of obvious, but does your wife or daughter or like your own, do you know like your children or anybody that you know of, like in your family who actually watches the shows that you work on, or like are your children into like I guess video games or animation or anime work? Are they like also like fans of the work that you've done voiceovers in, like anime and whatnot?
No, none of them really watch it. Um, you know, my daughter's a Simpsons fan, so she's watched
Yeah.
that. But
Oh yeah.
I don't think any of them have. I mean, when they were little, they all probably watched Care Bears, and saw the different shows I did. I don't know, Franklin and a lot of those things. But hang on. can you wait one sec? Let me just, no, you know what? It's okay. I'm just gonna turn it off.
All right.
Yep. Um, but no, they don't watch my stuff. I don't encourage it. They're not sort of animation fans. So why should I make them do that? It's my legacy. It's not theirs. Right.
That's fair. So for the work that you've done for animation, like video games, anime, and just the different work that you do for voiceover work, and you've also done some on-camera stuff. So do you also prefer like? But I mean, I shouldn't even ask this because like anything that you do, like you just happily, you're just really proud of doing whatever it is that you just really like any opportunities that come your way. You're just like the happiest guy on earth. So it's like it doesn't matter what you do, like any acting opportunity, like whether it's a video game, commercial, or animation, anything, you're just off in your own world, and then it's just like boom, you're off to the races, and then just have fun working,
I
essentially.
do. You know what? I have fun with it. Everything's a challenge. Um, if
Yeah.
it's not, if it's not a challenge, I'd be bored.
Oh, of course, if it's boring.
Even if it's just to say, I don't want to do anything with less energy than I did anything else. It's not fair to the people who hire me. I've got to keep, if they hire me because I have a certain standard. And sometimes it is a little tough to do that, to keep energy up and, beautiful sunny day. What would I rather do? Be out in my riding mower and digging in my garden, or go to Toronto to sit in a dark studio and record? Sometimes it's like, but it's what I do and I offer my services. And I owe people who hire me the best performance I can give. And I am happy. I am happy about it. I don't for a minute ever doubt that I've been blessed, and I have, I'm not the kind of guy, I don't have a sign outside my house that says, guess what I do. But I am proud of my accomplishments, and I'm happy that I've made people happy, and happy I've made myself happy. And hey, my work has gotten me a house and a, half decent car. So how can I complain? It's wonderful.
It's really good to hear, man. Yeah, so just a couple more questions and then we should wrap this up. And yeah, it's been a huge pleasure of getting to have you on and just to have these wonderful just conversations about just life, your career, and just any and all in between. So yeah, is there like, do you have any upcoming? Oh, actually, yeah. So like for demo and the coaching in particular, what did you, or how, or was it something that led you into wanting to coach students for like demo productions and coaching them with their demo reels? So how did you get into that like little, you know?
Well, yeah, well, a couple of people asked me. They said, you're really good. Can you teach me? And yeah, so I helped a few people out, and they were really, really happy. And I thought, you know, I think I kind of like this, and I still do. I rarely will teach anybody that isn't excited. You've got to be as excited as I am about the industry. If you're not, I say, look, I don't know if I'm the right teacher, because, and you can't sort of say, oh, I'll do it in my spare time. It's got to be a job. It is a job. I tell people, that you either have to be independently wealthy or work for your uncle, because when there's an audition or a gig, you got to go. You don't say, oh, 2 o'clock. I'm sorry. Can we make it 3:30? They'll say, "Mm, no, the job's at 2 o'clock." Right? They may try to accommodate you once or twice, right? But I like to be, I just like to, I like teaching, I like imparting, I like seeing the look on people's faces when they read something and I correct it, and they read it and they correct it, and they go, and they read it and they go, that's a good read. How do you feel about that? I think I did a really good read. And I said, that's because you did. You've accomplished that. Congratulations. That sounds really good. And producing a demo is always, everyone is different. And I like working with the people. I love the action of being in the studio. I just love it. I love picking music with, I got a great engineer that I work with, and we sit there and pick music and we edit the music and make it fit. It's a process, but it's fun. It's as fun as anything else. It
That's
really is.
nice.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just part of the action. I love being busy, and right, and that's a good part of it.
Yeah. So, is there anything that you'd like to talk about in the future that is currently not under NDA? And yeah, where can we expect to see Mr. John Stalker with all of his daily shenanigans in the current time zone, I guess?
Well, yeah. First of all, cons have not totally opened up cross border. There's still some issues of my going into the states. I mean, I can go down, but the whole COVID thing is still there. A lot of cons are limiting attendance and stuff. So I haven't been too busy with them. I got a couple of feelers. My agent's out. One of my agents, my con agent, has got a couple of feelers out. I only have two definite ones right now, and they're both in Canada. One's in Quebec. There's an anime convention called Utakuthon, and then I'm going to be in Ottawa for Fanaticon. So there's you know a couple of things on the horizon, and those aren't carved in stone either. We're just still negotiating, so who knows. I'll take what I can get, and again, Armageddon Con has expressed interest, and actually there's some people in England and the UK that I've talked with that may want to fly me over, which would be really neat. That'd be
I've always wanted to go to England. I've always would love to travel more. Eventually, once we get through this whole crisis,
yeah.
whatnot. Yeah, that's something I would love to do more. But yeah, are there like any TV shows or anything that you're watching or I don't know, reading that you like to give recommendations to people?
No, I just, you know what, just enjoy it. I'll tell you, I half the
Media.
time watch shows just to hear the commercials. I know that sounds backwards, but I'll listen to I love the commercial reads as an art form. Um, I find, I mean, there are a lot of good shows on, but you know what? I'll watch movies. I'll watch old movies, new movies, but I'm not glued to my TV as much as I used to anymore. I just other ways. Like my baseball. I read. I look at baseball. I read baseball items, stuff. I move around. I try to keep up on what's happening with some of the shows that I was involved in. I'm pretty try to keep up on the Sailor Moon thing so that when I go to cons or when I'm asked, I have a knowledge of it. But um, I wouldn't recommend anything to anybody. I mean, follow your heart, listen to what you want to listen to, watch what you want to watch. I'm sorry that I can't be of more help in this respect.
Well, it's okay. Do you have like any let's see, what is something about yourself that a lot of people don't really know about? Like any fun facts or anything
Uh,
of the
I'm,
sort?
I am, I think if I had my life to live, I would also, aside from my voice work, I'd like to be a landscape designer. My wife and I have lived in the country in 4 or 5 different places over 30 years. And every one of them, I get big rocks moved in, and I change like dig huge gardens and build rock walls. I love that. I still do it. I mean, I'm looking out at my yard right now at my wife's growing dahlias, and I loved getting the garden ready for her. I put in two gardens and cleared a whole bush, some trees back about 30 feet back, put in a rock wall. I mean, that's my other passion. So the voice work is for this, the landscape gardening is for this. So I love the physicality of it, and I love just getting dirty and sweaty, and looking at my physical accomplishments as well. A little egocentric, but hey, you asked, so there you go.
I mean, ask and you shall receive.
I guess. Yeah. Well, I'm asking for another lifetime, but I don't think that'll happen. Maybe my energy. you know.
Sure. So yeah, do you have like any last piece of advice to anybody out there who are interested in doing? I know you gave a lot of good advice, but any last closing words? And where do you expect, I guess, everything or like the industry to go moving forward as we're still navigating through this crisis? So any last piece of advice? And also, where do you see the future? I mean, personally
Well,
for you.
advice, I mean, it isn't limited to this industry. Advice is going to be,
Life advice in general.
it's
Yeah.
just life advice. I mean, be
Awesome.
happy. We're only here once. um, we're all going to die, no matter what, whether you have $1 billion or whether you have $1.50. We're all going to die. Make enough money to do what you want to do. Be happy. Make other people happy. Revel in the happiness and the joy that other people give you. That's about as corny as I can get. The industry itself, boy, it's getting more and more competitive. But if it's, again, it's what you want to do, you follow your heart. You know, it's always going to be better to say, I tried and failed than to say, oh, I always wanted to try. No, if you want to try it, try it. There's nothing wrong with failure. Failure isn't really failure. It's just not being able to do everything you want to do. And that's the way life is. In terms of the industry, it's very competitive. It's tougher to work, to navigate. There are thousands of voice actors out there, but you want it, put your head down, take lessons from somebody you trust. Don't feel forced into anything. Find somebody you're really compatible with to work with. Learn, get yourself a good demo, and then get out and push yourself as hard as you can.
Yeah, probably the best advice that we can close out on. So, I think you've already provided your website earlier, but are you on any active on any other social media or just that's
Well,
that?
pretty much, not really. I mean, I am on Instagram. It's under John Stalker Creative. But my website, johnstalker.ca, johnstalker.ca, will sort of tell you about it. I mean, I have no problems reaching out and saying, hey, you want me to come to your town? Go and talk to the the cons in your local town, wherever it is, and say, hey, get John Stalker. I mean, the size of the con is not critical. I the only thing is I don't really like to travel for a single day, but if somebody wants me for a couple of days, I'll come down. I'm a great guest. My Sailor Moon talk is interesting. I do talk about voice work, getting into the industry, navigating it, demos, agents, joining unions, the pros and the cons. Um, it's kind of you want to be a voice actor, I'll give you everything you need to know. So bring me down and say you heard it on this show.
Yeah. And I would have talked about like joining unions and agencies and whatnot, but I think that's pretty much what your panels usually entail when it comes to this
Right,
information. So,
right.
yeah, I'm pretty sure people ask you questions about it. I guess you could always shoot them an email or just,
Yeah,
yeah, just like give as a way to give back to, new and up and coming actors out there who are
yeah,
serious and passionate about giving this whole crazy career a shot. So,
yeah.
yeah.
And also, just to let anybody know that wants to contact me, my lessons are via Skype. So anybody that wants to talk to me about voice lessons in animation or commercial work, get in touch with me. Never any pressure. I'll let you know how I work. You like it? Great. You don't? I wish you all the luck in the world finding someone that you're compatible with.
Yeah. And do you have like any closing, like an outro or any like final farewells? Like you can say it as yourself or in a character. Just feel free to do whatever it is. It just the floor is all yours.
Okay, I'll just say, take care, everybody.
Awesome. And with that, thank you so much. And thank you. Was it Toad or Beasley?
That was beastly.
Yeah.
Toad was like that. There's Toad.
Yeah, and thank you so much. Thank you very, very, very much. But yeah, thank you, John, for stopping by today. And yeah, if you've managed to stick to the very end of this, congratulations. The whole video will be up on YouTube, and you can listen to the audio version on my SoundCloud, Spotify, Anchor, wherever else I'm on. My social media is at Mystic IRJ. If you just find Mystic or Robert anywhere and everywhere, it's probably me. But yeah, thank you very much for joining me, for sticking around to the very end of this. I am Robert Jackson, and I'm officially signing out for today. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe out there, stay hydrated, and get vaccinated. I don't know how things are with the direction everything's going right now, but stay safe, stay healthy, stay strong, and remember, you can do this. And if there's something in life that you've always dreamt of doing, just do it. Literally, just do it. And with that, I'm signing out for today. Thank you, everybody. Bye bye. So long, folks. Bye. Peace. Pointing right at you. Bang, bang, bang. Okay, love you all. Bye.